I unfortunately lost my job earlier this year and decided to go into Bitcoin full time. Not knowing how to start, I challenged myself to be the catalyst for one Bitcoin interaction per day for 100 days. I define an interaction when Bitcoin moves from one address to another. I call this my 100-day Bitcoin challenge, and here is my proof of work. The first 2 weeks of the challenge weren't that bad. I went to my friends and family and got my Bitcoin interactions through them. It was really the third week onwards that I got really desperate, and that's where the Bitcoin whiteboard was born. I took a whiteboard like this, wrote down different messages, went to the streets, and just saw how people reacted and how they perceived Bitcoin. I ultimately ended up spending roughly 15 plus hours on the streets, just holding different signs to see how people react. What's awesome is that someone got inspired by my whiteboard, got a whiteboard themselves in Uganda, took it to the streets of Kampala to help educate others about Bitcoin. A huge shout out to Brendan. As a visual learner, I've taken countless notes on Bitcoin to help me make sense of the topic. I thought it could help others, so I made it all available for free. Why? Because everyone deserves an equal opportunity to learn. Open sourcing education just seemed like the Bitcoin way. I was really overwhelmed by the positive feedback with these visual notes, so I decided to compile them and make them into visual books. I have 2 books out, Bitcoin for Beginners and Bitcoin for Businesses. Speaking of businesses, I've onboarded 3 businesses to accept Bitcoin as a form of payment, 2 of them being barbers. I convinced one of them to provide his customers a 5% discount when they pay with Bitcoin. He actually sends me a monthly message to tell me his progress of how many people paid him with Bitcoin. It's an awesome journey to see. I presented why businesses should adopt Bitcoin as a form of payment in 2 local meetups, in Calgary and in Toronto. In Toronto, I actually opened up for the legendary Jimmy Song, something I never imagined in my wildest dreams. Bitcoin should be viewed as treasure the same way gold has been seen for centuries. For this reason, I started a Bitcoin treasure hunt where I leave behind seed words so people can learn about self-custody. I've taken this one step further. In our culture, we typically give gold to newborns, and I couldn't help myself to do that. I gave my nieces and nephews Bitcoin instead. I got a little box, put confetti in it, put an open down with Bitcoin, and gave it to them as a little treasure box and told the parents specifically not to give it to them until they turn 18. I'm hoping one day that I can win the Best Uncle Award, and a big shout out to BTC Sessions for inspiring me to do this. When I started this challenge, I wanted to help at least one person set up their Bitcoin node. I fortunately doubled that goal. I helped a beef rancher and a potato farmer DIY their own node. They went from basic computer skills to troubleshooting their BIOS. It was a crazy journey to watch them go through that in just an afternoon. A huge shout out to the Start9 Labs support team for helping us troubleshoot through the entire process. My wife had put up with all my Bitcoin rants over the years, but never really got any hands-on experience. So I decided to change that by putting her through a weekend Bitcoin bootcamp. We overviewed how to stack non-KYC Bitcoin, how to store it for day-to-day use, how to secure it using a hardware wallet, and how to spend it using gift card and other means. Through this challenge, I enabled 96 Bitcoin interactions. 30 people got their first Satoshis, 15 of them total strangers on the streets. 10 servers were tipped in Bitcoin, 10 were shown how to buy gift cards using Bitcoin, 10 learned about the mempool through on-chain transactions, 7 took self-custody using hardware wallets, 6 business owners learned how to accept Bitcoin as a form of payment, 5 newborns received Bitcoin treasure, and 2 set up their own node. Overall, this was an eye-opening experience. I learned about myself, about Bitcoin, and how others perceive it. I also built a portfolio of my proof of work. If you want to get into Bitcoin and not sure where to start, I highly urge you to take on this 100-day Bitcoin challenge. So what's next for me? My wife and I are on a Bitcoin pilgrimage around the world to help educate others on Bitcoin and ignite curiosity in one student at a time. We're also looking to enable Bitcoin as a form of payment through education and not its price. We'd love it if you follow our adventures. You'll find us in a variety of platforms here under the handle Student of Bitcoin.